Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Gadget Show, brought to you by Jaguar. My name is Tim Stevens.
I'm Brian Heater.
And we are just a few weeks away from E3 in Los Angeles, and so we have a very special video game-themed episode for you tonight.
And so we're so excited.
Excited.
We just literally could not wait.
We're so excited.
We are bringing E3 to you. How excited are we?
We're so
excited. We've got the directors of Indie Game the Movie here.
We're also going to go down to the Smithsonian to look at the art of the video game exhibit and sit down with Ben from Joystick to talk about all the great things coming from E3 this year.
Yeah, and as you know, Fifth Avenue Frogger sadly did not make it into the Smithsonian exhibit, but we liked it so much, we brought it onto the show. But we're going to start things off by heading to Chinatown.
Yes, we're going to go to the Chinatown Fair, the recently reopened arcade.
I think it's actually the last arcade in Manhattan. Is that true?
It is true, so let's enjoy it while we can.
About a year ago, Chinatown Fair, one of New York City's oldest arcade gaming institutions, closed down. At Engadget, we were pretty sad about it, as were many New Yorkers. Recently, however, we found out that it reopened with a new owner who's given it a facelift, so we decided to come down and check it out. So, Alani, how long have you been involved with the Chinatown Fair, and when did you decide to reopen it?
Well, I've been coming here since I was a little kid. I used to play the tic-tac-toe chicken all the time. We decided that it's time to reopen it and add a lot of new games and new things.
So in comparison to the old Chinatown Fair, we understand that you're trying to make this more family-friendly.
Come in here on a Saturday, especially on a Sunday, and you'll have whole families in here, moms, dads, 5, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. You get the whole gamut of families in here. A big change from what it was. I mean, what it was primarily fighting games, and now we basically have gone to a little bit of everything.
So there aren't any coin-operated machines here. You're using slide cards now.
The reason we have swipe cards is that to allow us to do many promotions. So basically, swipe cards are much easier to use, much more family-friendly, and it's the wave of the future for this industry.
So in this era of console and more so mobile gaming with like iPads and PS Vitas, are you still seeing an interest in the arcade setting?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a social place to come to and visit. There are games here, from pinball machines and air hockey. They can't play them in their house unless they have a 10-foot air hockey game or a pinball machine.
What's the atmosphere like compared to the old place?
It's more of a welcoming atmosphere, and I like what the owner's trying to do in terms of getting all the redemption games as well as the fighting games back in here.
So we're here with Pete. We caught him playing a game of Pump It Up Fiesta EX. It's kind of like DDR. So about the look and feel and the ambience of the place, what's the difference that you're noticing?
Well, a lot brighter now. It feels more inviting for as I said, people bringing in their kids, their family.
Can you tell me about how this is different from playing at home? Do you like playing face-to-face with people?
Well, I've been going to arcades to play music games for about 8 years now, and it's always good to have like a local place everyone can gather, because playing at home, you're playing on a soft mat, it slips around. That and also Pump It Up is a really rare game.
So this dancing game seems to be pretty popular. Well, how do you notice it to be?
For dancing games in general, they're not like these racing games and shooting games. You see people playing it, it's fun, so you jump on and play it, and it gets really addictive. These cabinets cost a lot of money, so the people that are very enthusiastic about these types of games travel all over the place just to play them. And so it's a good thing that this game is here because of the fact that it gives all the people that play Pump It Up a chance to play.
How's the reception been so far, and where do you see it going from here?
Well, up and up. I mean, the reception's been fantastic. I mean, everybody, 99% of people say they love it. They're so happy we reopened, and we're glad to be here.
Well, I just lost, but the new Chinatown Fair is clearly a winner. They've got something for everyone as it is, and we can't wait to see what they add in the future.
Now, you might have noticed something missing in that segment.
Yeah, it's not it used to be such a. Did you ever go to the old Chinatown Fair?
I never was.
It was terrifying. There was like a certain. there were chickens. There were trained chickens in there. There were certain places you didn't want to maybe go past. You didn't want to go too deep. So just a lot of shifty-looking 13-year-olds. it was a rough place.
Playing fighting games, which were not featured in that segment because they're not actually there, but they are coming back. We're told that they're being refurbished and they will return to the arcades soon.
I think because as Joe said during the segment, they're trying to make it a little more family friendly, which I think is why they took them out, and they're realizing that without fighting games, there's really no point to go into the arcade.
No crowds either. It was looking a little empty. So hopefully things will be more successful this time for the Chinatown Fair.
But I say, why go to the arcade when you can bring the arcade to you, Tim?
Very nicely done. This is the Ion Arcade. Boy, I forgot.
It says the arcade cabinet.
Arcade cabinet.
The Ion,
naturally.
the Ion arcade cabinet. This is just a row. This is a row of really tough names on the show.
Rolls off the tongue. This is something that we featured on the show before, and we all fell in love with it. It's got this beautiful kind of 70s styling to it, which is pretty awesome.
It's a Bluetooth controller for your iPad.
Right,
so
you
it
can play
communicates.
classic games on your iPad.
So you don't have to use the touchscreen gaming, which is kind of a pain in the butt.
Right, and now Ion has a new version for us, which we're going to talk about today, and this is it right here.
This is the iCade Core. So, if you look at the button rates, it's pretty much the same thing. It's the same technology. It's just a much smaller device. It's slightly more portable.
Slightly more portable. It's still pretty big. I don't know that I want to stick this in my bag.
Yeah, and a little bit flimsy too. You kind of got to go gentle when you're playing with this thing.
It's kind of cheap plastic, but curiously, it costs the same,
this
right?
This is still a $100 device right here. It
Which
works.
is also $100.
These are both $100. Works as advertised. You're not going to get
the retro.
The
styling.
retro, yeah. A lot of 40-year-olds going to be excited for this one. This is a little bit more like the old, the big joystick that you used to have on your lap when you're playing
like the old Street Fighter 2 Super Turbo Ultra Edition that you imported from Japan for $99. There's another Ion product as well. This is the iCade Mobile, which, as you can see, is actually a very different thing than the others. Now, you've got a device there that we might want to slide in here so we can actually...
Yeah, this is a brand new device called the Apple iPhone.
You can see it's got this.
You saw it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to play this guy.
The iCade Mobile's got this rubberized middle section here in which you can slot an iPhone 4, a 3GS, an iPod Touch, and it's got little adapters that'll slide in to hold it in place.
Yeah.
But really, it's probably the iPhone.
It's the iPhone. You're only going to be able to play, I think, iOS games on this. And also the game selection is not quite as good as it is on the other games, and that's already kind of paltry to begin with.
But again, we're talking Bluetooth connectivity to the device. There's no physical connection. You're not going to be charging your device while you're using this, but you still got 8 buttons on here.
You have 8 buttons on here, which is overkill. I mean, I was playing around with this thing earlier, and I literally needed 1 button for pretty much every single game I played because they're iPhone
games mostly.
They're iPhone games.
Yep. And it rotates, which is kind of cool, so you can play portrait or landscape. But the whole thing, I mean, it's A, it's kind of big, and B, it's kind
ugly
of cheap
as
feeling.
crap.
Oh,
that would be B.2. Is that it's
and C, it's kind of cheap feeling, and this guy's not that cheap.
It's not. This is an $80 device right here, but it does the trick.
It does the trick.
It'll not break for as long as it takes for you to get sick with it. So it'll probably last 2 weeks.
All right.
All right.
Let's move right along to the latest and greatest on Sprint. These are 2 new LTE devices that come from the future when Sprint actually has LTE. Sprint does not.
These are literally the LTE on these devices is literally so fast that the network couldn't catch up to it.
Yes. Sprint has yet to launch their LTE network sometime this summer, we think. This is the Galaxy Nexus for Sprint, which is much like the Galaxy Nexus for Verizon in that we're talking 3G and 4G connectivity. Of course, you can only use 3G connectivity now. Battery life on this guy is actually even worse than the Verizon version in our testing, but it's still a great phone. I mean, the Galaxy Nexus is definitely one of the best Android devices on the market right now.
This is the price that you pay for unlimited data, right?
Yeah, Sprint, of course, the only major carrier right now with unlimited data, and now you can get the Galaxy Nexus on there, or you can get this guy, which is, Brian, what's the name of this guy?
You don't even have to hold this because, ladies and gentlemen, it's got a kickstand.
Kickstand.
All right, this is the...
you ready? Come on.
This is going to take a couple tries. It's the HTC Evo 4G LTE.
For Sprint.
For Sprint.
Close.
Let's start the show over again.
Close. This guy is effectively the HTC Evo 1X, which we talked about on the last show.
Yeah, with the kickstand.
A little bit different styling, with a kickstand, with this kind of nice red trim here.
So I would ask you, Tim, why, if you were naming this device, why wouldn't you just call this the HTC Evo 4G for Sprint?
Because there was already an HTC Evo 4G. That was WiMAX. This is the LTE version. That's not confusing, is it?
No. So I mean, it wasn't, and that's tricky because WiMAX is. not really 4G.
It's totally 4G. Totally 4G. It's very clearly 4G at the very least.
Yeah.
But this is our pick for the top Android phone at the moment, and it's great on Sprint as well. No, I mean, the HTC One X on other carriers is fantastic. This guy, a little bit thicker, but still a fantastic device. You know, if you've got your choice of carriers, probably not the one to go with. But if, let's say, you work for an employer that's got a Sprint contract.
Or you like unlimited data.
Or you like unlimited data, this is probably the guy to go with. But a little bit hard to get at the moment.
Yeah, and also, I mean, this is great because, like, if you want to watch a movie, oh my God, it's not standing up.
True. The
Point HTC.
Point HTC.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the HTC Evo 4G LTE for Sprint, has been held up at customs. So
yeah, there's a little bit of a tricky thing with the ITC, and maybe Apple was a little bit involved because there's some lawsuits happening. So that's a little hard to get. I think the HTC One X is a little hard to get these days as well.
But it should only be a couple of weeks before all the customs nonsense is cleared up.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a working LTE network by the time you can actually get this phone in the States.
Last gadgets of the month, we've got 2 new old tablets.
Yeah, 2 slight reboots to 2 successful tablet lines.
This is the Asus Transformer Pad.
Evo. This is the Asus Evo 4G LTE for Android.
This is the Transformer Pad TF300.
Yeah.
Kind of a not really successor to the Transformer Prime, which we've seen on the show before, but basically kind of a stripped down version, cheaper version, $380 for the tablet alone. Oh yeah, which comes off the keyboard.
It's a tablet. I just want to remind people this is not a netbook that we're dealing with here.
And ooh, we got some flickering going on the screen. That's interesting. It's a little bit.
It's a budget version, so it doesn't work.
The design's a little bit cheaper. It's a little bit thicker.
It's on camera.
It does have a camera on there. Performance is pretty good for the price. Again, $380 for the 16 gig version, or $399 for the 32 gig version. So only $20 more to double the storage.
That audience is.
Look at that amazing audience. Yeah, a great tablet at a great price. A little bit more expensive is this guy.
Here's a not great tablet at a not great price, but this is the budget version.
Right, with another confusing name, the Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 10.1
for Sprint.
No. This is the successor to the Galaxy Tab 10.1, which is one of our favorite tablets of prior years.
Samsung was like, the Galaxy Tab was so great. What if we made it a little bit thicker, made it a little bit crappier, and slightly reduced the price?
And that's this.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Galaxy Tab 2 10.1.
Battery life is a little bit worse, which kind of stinks. We've got these nice front-facing speakers, which is pretty rare on a tablet, but that doesn't really make up for the fact that this is $400, so it costs more than the Transformer Pad out of the box. It's slower, battery life isn't as good.
What's confusing to me is like Samsung already has like 9 different Android tablet lines right now, so why not just call this another one?
Yeah, instead of the Galaxy Tab 2 10.1.
Well, yeah, the Galaxy Tab 10.1C for cheap or crappy.
Cheap. We'll say cheap.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's our top gadgets of the month. Which is your pick for the month, Brian?
I think I'm going to take this one home with me. We get to take one of these home, right?
Yeah, I'm going to take the HTC Evo 4G LTE because I need more acronyms in my life. Okay, but now that we've got our favorite gadgets, why don't we take a trip down to the Smithsonian to take a look at the art of video games?
We're here at the Smithsonian Art Museum in Washington, D.C. for the art of video games. The exhibition focuses on video games as an art form as it's evolved across the past 50 years, from Pong to Call of Duty and everything in between. We spoke with 2 industry-leading game developers, Irrational Games' Ken Levine and former That Game Company president Kelly Santiago, to get their take on that history.
You know, it's an expressive medium and an artistic medium, just like film or paintings or music, and everyone has kind of a basic vocabulary around those other mediums in our culture. And I think that's an important aspect of sort of being able to have real critique around games.
For developers, the last 20 years have been in constant flux. Technology grew at a rapid pace, though constraint and limitation continue to drive creativity.
I think technology is such an integral part of the creation of any game. It's not as sexy to hear about sort of why you made this decision because of some technology or resource limitation issue, but that's what I think makes video games such a renaissance medium, is that you do have to consider the realities of technology, the realities of production, along with the ideas you want to express and communicate within your game.
When a gamer would play System Shock 2 back in '99, they filled in a lot of blanks, right? But my parents would look at it and be like, they have no idea what they're looking at, right? It was so geometrically sparse and the textures were so low resolution. A gamer looked at that stuff and can do that math. We got to the stage now where you didn't need a gamer to look at it to be able to parse the environments. My parents saw it and they immediately got it. Oh, we get it, visually we get it. And that was the big leap for us with the technology there. It wasn't anything whiz bang, it was just you could render enough polygons to tell that story. And have enough texture memory to tell that story.
The technology we have available today does possibly lend itself more to the style of experience that we created with Flower and Journey, where there's more intrinsic value of the experience in the environments, where you can really have a very visceral feeling of the world around you. And just have that sort of be the reward for the experience, as opposed to more extrinsic rewards of points and scores and leveling up.
It's always about what does the platform afford, and then thinking about those tools and telling an individual story, not sort of a meta trend. It's not like I'm like, well, I want really good physics. Look, really good physics is nice. Lots of video memory is nice. Lots of processing power is nice. Lots of connectivity is nice. But at the end of the day, it's really about telling stories and and sharing experiences. Look at the delta between BioShock 1 and BioShock Infinite from a technology standpoint. It's huge. Look at the delta between, just Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. That's a big delta. Instead of just building like a dungeon, essentially, they're building this whole city. And there's, we sit down and look at it, and because we're rendering sort of parts of a city as well. And we look at that and we say, okay, well, that's the bar now, make sure we hit that bar or go over that bar. And that's both frustrating, because you always have these guys who are making your life more difficult, like my esteemed colleagues at other companies. But it's also thrilling, because they give you a challenge, they throw down the gauntlet. And they say, well, here's Batman flying around the city doing this stuff. Here, what are things going to be like on your skyline? And we need to step up, and that makes us better.
And what's next for video games? Levine says, don't mistake today for tomorrow.
What is really interesting to me is the possibility of sort of demolishing the living room as we know it today, that more people who are sort of in high school and college now are used to consuming media and engaging in games on sort of a distributed set of devices, on their phone, on their tablet, on their laptop. Not just all gathering around in front of a giant television.
5 years ago, if you would have been asked about the things that have happened in the last few years about tablets and phones and social games, and just now you have another sort of thing happening I think is very important, is the democratization of patronage with things like Kickstarter. Sure. That the kind of games that we thought were gone, these sort of $4 or $5 million games, $3 or $4 or $5 million games that are very PC oriented, very hardcore oriented, now have a way to be financially feasible again, because you have the fans, a niche group of people who collectively can support an endeavor like that. And I think that's incredibly powerful. I say it's always, you have to be careful not to mistake today for tomorrow, though, and it could be something else, tomorrow. And I think the key thing for all of us as developers is you always have to be ready to evolve.
Will gamers be playing tablet games in our smashed living rooms in 2013? Let's hope not. But if that's what it takes to make today's games even better, so be it.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody, and welcome Ben Gilbert of Joystick fame. And welcome to our new studio.
Welcome. Thanks, the first person to sit on that couch.
Yes.
Woo!
This is
the Gilbert couch.
I feel like I should be doing something to it to leave a mark, but that sounds kind of lurid.
We'll leave,
I want to leave it
after
all.
the show.
We'll leave a mark. Yeah, yeah. Marks will be left.
But,
some
Ben.
Some scars never heal, Ben.
Thank you for welcoming me.
I'm
ignoring
to our
Brian
new set
on that.
and to the Ben Gilbert Memorial Couch.
You're going to be murdered, apparently.
Now, you're just talking about the Smithsonian exhibit for art in video games, which is pretty cool. But I want to talk about some new video games we're going to be seeing just a couple of weeks out in Los Angeles.
I hope you're ready for a lot of 2s and 3s, because you're going to be seeing a lot of that, I think. You were talking to me specifically, E3 to start things off. Yeah. You were specifically talking to me about your excitement for Borderlands 2, I believe.
Yes, Borderlands 2, my wife and I probably spent roughly 3 months straight playing through that game and collecting every bit of loot that we could find. So I'm looking forward to the sequel, but also you probably won't hear from me for about 2 months when it comes out.
It's going to be a lot more of that, as far as I've told. And that's fine.
Great.
That's fine. That's what people want from Borderlands. And I think that you're going to see a lot of that from a lot of big series this year, just like every year, right? Like, you're going to see a lot more capitalizing on the big stuff. Like, there's going to be Assassin's Creed 3,
Halo 4,
a
new Forza game.
Sure.
This is not a new trend in the video
Not a new trend in the video games, not a new trend in media. I mean, in any of the things that we like. I think there's lots of sequels.
For sure. So what are you looking forward to in particular?
I am personally most looking forward to another sequel, which would be a game engine, though. It's instead of a game itself, is Unreal Engine 4. We're going to see a lot more about that, and that's going to be really the basis for a lot of video games going forward for the next 10 years. Unreal Engine 3, the current version of the engine, has been powering some of the biggest games of this generation. Games like Gears of War, and many, many more. And
so you're excited for the thing that's going to be making its way into video games, like at next E3?
Well, it's going to be debuted really this year. It was shown off a little bit earlier this year, and they're going to really blow it out this year at E3, and we're going to see a lot more of how that pertains to the next consoles. And so the only console of the next generation we're really going to see at E3 this year is Nintendo's Wii U.
So no PlayStation 4, no Xbox 720?
That's what Sony and Microsoft are saying, but they've lied before. So
about what?
I'm pretty sure Microsoft has never lied about it.
Never, definitely not. And why would they lie about rumors? That would be crazy. Yeah. So it's possible we'll see that stuff. If anything, I imagine it would be more kind of speculative stuff. Nothing very. You're not going to see hard specs. I imagine you're probably not going to see a box. You know, you'll maybe hear about what they're looking to do and stuff.
Could they pull Nintendo and show the controller, but not the console itself, maybe?
Perhaps, but and the only person I could really, or the only company I could really see doing that would be somebody like Microsoft with Kinect, because Kinect's been so successful, but PlayStation's Move hasn't really been very successful.
So this should be. We've seen the Wii U plenty of times before, but this should be the final formal revelation of everything about the Wii U, right?
It'll be a lot closer. Yeah, we're going to see a lot more launch titles. We're going to hear a lot more about the Marios and Zeldas of the world, and we're going to hopefully hear more about Smash Brothers. Fingers crossed. Yeah, we're going to see a lot more of the final stuff, though. It won't be. It probably will be. Nintendo will put it. It's close to final. Yeah. It'll probably be final hardware.
Are you guys excited for the Wii U at all?
Anybody?
No.
Tough crowd on the Wii U.
We need more children in the audience. They would be really thrilled about the new.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What games in particular are you looking forward to at E3? Anything that you've heard about? Any sequels that you really would like to play?
Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed, Boston, right? Was where that takes place.
It's going to be a little bit Boston, New York, and the woods. As it was
the woods
colonial
between
America.
Boston and New York?
Something like that. The frontier is what it's being called, and it's more or less the woods. It looks great. It's following the American Revolution, and it's the first real big series entry in the past 3 or 4 years, and it should be really great. That's what I'm personally most excited for, so we're locked up on that.
Pretty sweet. What about mobile gaming?
Mobile gaming
like
is
iPhone and that
yeah.
kind of thing?
I think we're gonna see a lot more Vita and 3DS stuff. Yeah. The E3 tends to shy away from that kind of. I mean, that stuff has a lot harder time standing out, I think, against the bigger console manufacturers. I think you're much more likely to see bigger Vita titles released. I think Vita stands to see a price cut, very likely.
Okay.
So there's not going to be a big Angry Birds booth on the floor.
Very likely not a big Angry Birds booth, although I like Angry Birds Space a lot. And anybody who doesn't is a liar.
They're monsters. They're monsters. They're monsters.
Bunch of monsters.
Yeah.
People don't like things because they're popular. That's silly.
It's interesting. Is it just that, like, is it that they can't really get a big presence on the floor? Because obviously, I mean, this is where the industry's going, right? I mean, everything's going towards mobile.
Is it?
I'm saying that your industry's dying, Ben.
Damn it.
This is an
I really got to get out of this.
Yeah, huge amounts of market share are going in towards independent app developing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that that is a big trend right now, but does it mean that the industry is going that way and that's the only place that we'll see games? No. I mean, we're still going to see the traditional console-based stuff. And
but I mean,
mobile is definitely much bigger.
Nintendo's struggling because of mobile right now, right?
I think struggling is a relative term.
Sure.
I mean, they're still doing pretty well. The 3DS has had a rough start, but it's doing much better now. It's been about a year out. And comparatively with the DS at launch, it's doing okay.
Keep it up, Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, well,
right.
it took about a year and a half or more before they really got software on there that people wanted, and that the DS started selling as a result. And 3DS had the same issues at launch, and it was also just too expensive. And I think we're seeing the same thing with the Vita. And like you say, though, mobile developers have been eating their lunch as a result, because games on mobile are really expensive. On the Vita, it's 40 or 50 bucks. And sometimes they're smaller games, but for the most part, they're still way more expensive than the mobile stuff.
Everybody wants to know, will there be a new Farmville at E3?
I think you can, not at E3, you can count on that. There will
Just
be
at
more
some point there will be.
Farmville.
Okay,
There's
you heard it here
definitely-
first.
Yeah, big shock. There's going to be more Farmville.
Do you think we could see a new 3DS with the integrated right thumbstick?
You know, my big bet was that we would see that earlier this year, and following Nintendo's trends, it would have been revealed earlier. It seems unlikely that we're going to see a hardware redesign right now. I think that Nintendo's going to spend a lot of time focusing on Wii U at E3.
Be maybe TGS, we'd see something like that?
Perhaps. TGS's Tokyo Game Show has been scaled down a lot over the years, so it's possible we'll see something like that there. Nintendo doesn't even attend Tokyo Game Show a lot of times. They do something separately. Kind of like Apple with the CES of the world, where they're like, we'll just do our own show. Because they can, right?
They got the money for now, anyway.
Absolutely.
All right, Ben. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm
Thank you,
really
guys.
excited for E3. Yeah, you are as well.
E3.
I told the director that we were going to have to put a 5-minute gap as everybody stood up and applauded you. So nice work.
Nice work indeed.
Try my
Okay,
best.
now we've been talking about new games for a while. Let's take a look at something a little bit more retro.
Hey everybody, it's Brian here with Engadget. We are high above 5th Avenue, New York City. We're at the offices of DeVito Verde, an advertising agency. We're gonna meet with the company's creative director, Tyler D'Angelo, to check out his very cool side project. We're not here to talk about advertising. We're here to talk about this machine right here. What looks to me to be a pretty standard Frogger machine circa like 1983.
Yep.
How is this Frogger machine different than every other Frogger machine?
We just sort of wanted to come up with a really fun thing to do to mess with technology, to mess with games. And we ended up landing on this idea of 5th Avenue Frogger, which is basically just like original Frogger, except for the cars that are in the game are actually driving down 5th Avenue in real time while you're playing the game.
How are you translating actual footage of cars into a video game?
Well, we have in one of the offices downstairs, which has really a perfect view of 5th Avenue. There's a webcam that points out the window, and as cars drive down the street, the real-time feed from the webcam goes into a computer that's inside the arcade, and we have software that translates the car positions into data, which we map over the old-school graphics that are in the game, the little tiny cars.
Can we crack it open and take a look inside?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot going on back here. Obviously, there are some pieces that that didn't ship with the original Frogger machine.
What the PC does is it's running the new software of the Frogger game with the old school look.
Yeah.
But it also is what's receiving the real-time traffic feed from the camera that looks at 5th Avenue.
If we boot this machine up, are we going to see like Windows?
It'll come right up.
It'll come right up. Yeah. Okay.
So we did some hacking, got some pieces for Radio Shack. That's what this piece is here that takes the video signal from the the really low resolution monitor to interface with the higher resolution output of this. We also have some other things you may notice is that we have a new amplifier for the sound. In here, the joystick is going through a hacked keyboard that's going back into the USB into here.
What are the software tweaks that you've made here?
Well, we broke up the game. If you remember from old school Frogger, the top was a swamp and the bottom was the road.
street, yeah.
So we got rid of the swamp so that someone could see what the real-time feed looks like. And the bottom half of the play field kind of looks like 5th Avenue, where the frog goes into little shops. But all of it maintains the 8-bit graphics that are a throwback to the original Frogger.
As cool as the back is, you know we're actually going to want to play this thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's pack it up, take it down to 5th Avenue, and place it right in between the streets that the camera is tracking the cars.
Yeah, let's do it.
Night is descended upon New York City. We're down here on 5th Avenue. Tyler is in the back, fiddling around with the machine. Let's go see it in action.
So we're outside and we need to have some power. So we got this kind of noisy generator out here. We also have in the back the internet, which is through this wireless internet signal that allows us to tap into the the live feed from the traffic that's right here.
Is this good to go? Can we actually play it right
yeah,
now?
we can play it right now.
So we've actually got some traffic over here now.
It's cool to see the cars in front, and then actually, like, that car is that right there.
So, I mean, is it actually measuring the size of the vehicles and tailor-fitting the ones that are driving by, or is this kind of a random?
Right now, so we create about 6 or 7 or 8 different cars, and it just sort of randomly puts them on top of the cars that it tracks.
So there's some real world interaction here, but I mean, what's the end game here?
Well, you know, this is really a way for us to sort of explore the idea of, like, how can we create a game where real-world events are affecting the gameplay, where part of a big part of the game is actually not programmed. You don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of places that we could go where we can create games where really different types of events in the real world affect how the game is played.
All right, Tyler, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be on the lookout for future projects from you. I hope you have a little bit of time in the meantime, because right now I'm going to beat your high score.
Sounds good.
All right.
Now, Tyler was kind enough to let us bring the arcade cabinet here, and Joshua was kind enough to come up and play it. Josh
was kind enough to play a game on stage.
Which you may not have. Have you ever played Frogger before? Have you heard of Frogger before? I think you're a little bit younger than the average Frogger.
Can you talk and play video games at the same time? You might not have been the right person for this.
What's your favorite game that you play at the moment?
On my iPhone, it has to be Angry Birds Space.
Angry Birds. Now, is this more or less complicated, do you think, than Angry Birds?
It's less complicated.
Yeah.
If this was in space, would you like it more? No.
No. All right. All right. Now we got the live stream from Fifth Avenue up here, so it is working pretty well. But ultimately, we're in the daylight hour, so it doesn't quite pick up the cars as well.
Yeah, it works a lot better at night. But this is, this is the traffic that's happening on Fifth Avenue right now.
It's getting thicker than it was earlier today because we are just about prime time rush hour time.
Yeah, interestingly, actually,
Which makes it very hard for Josh here, by the way.
Just wait for the red light. That's kind of the cheat on this game. Actually, the reason why we first heard about this game was because of the Smithsonian exhibit. Tyler, the creator, was actually not Tyler, the creator from Odd Future. Tyler, the creator of this video game, was actually trying to get it into the Smithsonian exhibit. Sadly, did not make it, but I don't know, probably a lot more awesome than a lot of stuff in that exhibit.
He made it somewhere even better.
Yeah.
The Gadget Show.
Big number 2.
Absolutely.
Big second place for Tyler.
Very close.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Josh, for giving us a little demo on stage. Yes, Josh, nicely done.
Do you want to keep playing, or do you want to sit down?
You look a little bored.
Which is more boring, the show or the game? It's your call, Josh. All right, I think we got our answer.
Okay, I think so too. All right, it's time to look at a movie clip, yeah?
Yeah, we've got the directors of Indie Game the Movie coming out. This is a fantastic new film. It's coming out, it's getting wider release right now. It was at Sundance. It's about, as the title suggests, it's about indie game developers. Watch the trailer because that's what we're gonna play for you.
I am determined to make video games, and I make video games because I can.
I mean, it's the sum total of every expressive medium of all times made interactive. Like, how is that not? It's awesome.
My whole career has been me trying to find new ways to communicate with people because I desperately want to communicate with people, but I don't want the messy interaction of having to make friends and talk to people because I probably don't like them.
And it's not just a game, like I'm so closely attached to it. This is my identity. It's Fez. I'm Guy making Fez. You know, that's about it.
You know, making it was about, let me take my deepest flaws and vulnerabilities and put them in the game.
I'm on the line, me, like my name, my career,